Something my clients often struggle with is overeating in the evening. So you finish your dinner, you go and sit in the living room, you put the TV on, and that's when the snacking starts. Now, if you've been watching my channel a while, you'll know that one of the first questions I'll probably ask you is what you've been eating during the day, and are you already in a regular eating pattern? One of the second things we might look at is your emotions, and is there an emotional link between that's leading you to eat more in the evening? But supposing both of those things feel sorted, you're in a regular eating pattern, and you don't feel there's any particular stress or any particular emotions linked to your eating, your overeating in the evening could be linked to habit. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what habit is and how it's formed, and go through some tips for breaking those unhealthy eating habits in the evening. I'm Dr. Paula Watson. I'm a Liverpool-based psychologist providing therapy for people struggling with weight, disordered eating and exercise. On my channel, I help you understand why you're struggling and share psychological tips for making changes that last. So, what is a habit? There's three things that make something a habit. The first thing, and this is how habits are formed, is if we're performing the behavior in the same time, same place, every day. The second thing is that there's an automatic association in our brain between an environmental cue or trigger and the behavior. So in the example I gave earlier, that environmental cue would be finishing your dinner and sitting in the living room, putting the TV on. When those things happen, your brain automatically goes, food, and there's this connection going on. The third thing is that a habit is something that's automatic. We kind of go onto autopilot. It feels mindless. So it's taking up none of our brain space. It takes no effort to do. It's the easiest thing for us to do because it's the thing that we're used to doing every day, day in, day out. So examples of positive, healthy, normal habits would be things like brushing our teeth in the morning. You likely do it at a very precise time after you've done a very other specific thing, which is the cue in the morning. So it might be that you get up, you have your shower, you have your breakfast, then you brush your teeth. So you're following in a sequence, feels automatic for you. Another example with food, and a less healthy habit I have is when I go into the kitchen to make a cup of tea, automatically I open the cupboard to see if there's a snack because my brain associates putting the kettle on for a cup of tea with snacking. Now, an important thing about habits is they're context dependent. So you've probably experienced this yourself. You might be in habits at home, but when you go away on holiday, suddenly that desire to eat all evening after dinner isn't there anymore. So like me, if I go to a friend's house or go to stay somewhere else, the minute I put the kettle on, I'm not opening my friend's cupboard to see if there's snacks. So when we're thinking about how to break habits, we need to bear these elements in mind. The first way and the most powerful way to break a habit is to remove that environmental cue. Remove the trigger essentially, or change that environment. So go away on holiday. When we think about the cue of going in the living room to watch TV, that's your cue when you finish dinner. Okay, if you were going to break that cue, what you'd need to do is immediately after you finish dinner, make sure you don't go and sit in front of the TV in the living room. Now, this may or may not be something you want to do. It may not feel like a viable option. So the second way we can break a habit is by creating a new healthy habit to take its place. So something that sometimes my clients work on, I've got one working on at the moment, which is really helping with this, is when you finish your dinner, you start putting, so your brain associates that cue with a new behavior. And a great one for this after dinner problem can be walking. Just walking 5 minutes, literally going out walking around the block. And then our brain starts to associate finishing dinner with going for that walk. Now, an added benefit of walking straight after dinner is that it stops our blood sugar spiking so much, so it can be really helpful from a weight management perspective as well. Now, if you'd like some support in how to actually identify and develop a new healthy habit, you might want to check out my video about stopping turning to food when you're stressed. Now, the third way then that you can break a habit is, instead of removing the cue or trigger or developing a new healthy habit in its place, you can actually try and intercept when you notice that cue or trigger. Use techniques or tools to intercept, to stop it automatically leading to food and snacking. So for instance, when you go into the living room, you turn the TV on, the first thing you need to do is notice there's that automatic drive to go and get that chocolate from the kitchen. So you notice it and you pause. Now, there's several things you can do with that pause. You can wait 10 minutes. You could ask yourself, what does my body actually need now? And that might be a drink rather than food. You could ask yourself, well, how am I going to feel if I do eat this now? How am I going to feel in 10 minutes time? Compared to how am I going to feel in 10 minutes time if I don't eat this now? Something else that some people find useful is to reconnect with your why at that moment. Why is it that you want to break this habit? What difference is it going to make to your life day in, day out? What difference is it going to make to you in the long term? And the last technique that you can use to intercept, this one sounds a bit crazy because it sounds too good to be true. It just sounds so simple that you're like, what? But essentially, there's two ways to stop a craving. One of them is to give in to the craving and have the food. The other one is to decide you're not going to have that food. Okay, that sounds, you're probably like, what? If it was that easy, surely none of us would have any cravings or nobody would be overweight. Exactly. But what's actually happening, we're not just saying no to it when we think we're saying no to it. What happens is we get this ongoing argument in our head. So part of us is saying, oh no, you really shouldn't have that. Remember, you're on this weight loss journey. You don't need that. You're already full. The other part of your brain is saying, oh, but I really want it. One doesn't matter. And then this one will come back and say, go on, you need to keep persevering. And this one will be like, oh, go on, you're allowed. You're still a bit hungry. And this goes on. So we might even semi-make the decision in between, okay, I'm not going to have it. But then, oh, but I want it. But what we don't actually do is solidly make that decision. There's a difference between wondering whether or not to have it and actually being like, no, final decision. So if you concretely make that no, final decision, don't let yourself get sucked into these thoughts that may keep popping up in your head. You will see a difference. So sounds crazy, works for some people, may not work for everybody, but see if any of them appeal to you and try them out. What if you're thinking, well, I've already tried all these, because they're not rocket science things. You've probably heard some of these techniques and tips before. What if you're thinking, well, I've tried all these things and they still don't work? I guess I'm going to ask you to be really honest with yourself and say, how consistently have you tried them and have you persevered with them? Because they aren't going to work if you just do them once or twice. Remember how a habit was formed? Through repeating the same behavior in response to the same cue, day in, day out. So to unform that habit, you also need to practice intercepting it day in, day out, or practice your new habit day in, day out. How long does this take? Okay, so how long is a piece of string, we might say, but we do have some indication. There was a study done in 2009 by Philip O'Reilly and colleagues, and what they did is they got people to introduce a new health behavior, a simple health behavior, and practice it every day. So, for example, it might be something like eating a banana at the same time every day. And they tracked how soon it started to feel habitual. So how soon it started to feel like it wasn't taking any cognitive effort anymore. And they found it took between 18 days and 254 days. There's a lot of individual variability, but it also can take some time. But what I will say is, a lot of my clients notice a difference before that. And certainly when I've tried this myself, I think, a week of consistently paying attention to coming off autopilot and really trying to break that habit, you will start to see a difference and start to believe that you can do it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you want more information on the psychology of eating, check out my playlist on changing eating behavior, and please do comment below and let me know what unhealthy habits you're trying to break.